GMO stands for genetically modified organism, okay? But everything we basically touch, really, is from man's standpoint, is genetically modified. Just look at dogs. I mean, all the different breeds out there, every one of those have been genetically modified. And we do that through breeding, okay? Breeding is just kind of randomly trying to combine traits and develop whatever you're trying to develop, whether it be a pretty flower or corn yield or dogs or whatever. Those are all genetically modified organisms. There's a lot of different ways to do breeding. Another way is through things like mutagenesis, where you put on a chemical or you put an X-ray beam into DNA, and there's random mutations that can occur. Okay. Another way is tissue culture. I talked a little bit about that, where you can select genes within a tissue within a test tube. And then there's the transgenic, where you're taking genes from one organism and putting them into another organism. So what I do is I work with farmers around the state. I basically plant about 13,000 plots a year at 14 locations. In 1996, though, we got our first transgenic hybrids. So the transgenic hybrids for corn have been around. This was our 21st season of growing transgenic hybrids in the U.S. and in particular here in Wisconsin here. So they've been around a long time. We fed a lot of different animal units with them. You've probably eaten a lot of transgenic corn, and as far as I know, no one's died from transgenic corn, okay? But it's very controversial, not so much from the farmer perspective, but more from the consumer end of things, okay? But from a farmer perspective, there's a lot of advantages to using transgenic corn. A few of the advantages that just come to mind right away is, first of all, we don't have to handle as many pesticides, and in particular insecticides, like we did in the past before. And that, I think, just from a farmer safety point of view, is a very important aspect to these transgenic crops. Now, on the con side, there are a lot of things. One of the biggest things has been the consumer acceptance of it. But there are a lot of good uses for this, for these kinds of technologies out there. But the ethics of a lot of this is really scary to think about, and scientists have already been debating this now for a couple of years.
Okay, I guess in Europe they call GMOs frankenfoods.
Yep.
I just read an article that said that that yields in Europe are very comparable to what we have in the United States. So I wonder if that's true, first of all, maybe you could comment on that.
Well, it's not really true, because they're a lot further north than we are, and they don't have the growing season that we've got in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. They're more like Wisconsin. Okay, we don't get the yields. This year we set another record, 180 bushels to the acre average for the state. Okay, but Illinois this year got 202 bushels average for the state. And Europe does not even come close to what and they call them frankenfoods there because they don't have the technology. And a lot of the breeding companies there couldn't get the technology. So I go to Europe every once in a while. Farmers in Italy, farmers in the Czech Republic, they would love to grow transgenic crops, and they're starting to do it now. And study after study, longitudinal studies out of France and out of many countries in Europe indicate no effects at all growing transgenic crops.
What are the connections if you have a plant that has an insect resistance because of the genes that you've played with, and a worm eats it, it dies? Is there a connection if a human eats that plant that it might begin to impact us in ways that we aren't even aware of yet?
I don't know, and we always say that we're only 99% sure. But here's the way the Bt protein works in an insect gut. An insect gut is alkaline. Okay, so when that Bt protein is ingested into the gut of a worm, it crystallizes because it's an alkaline environment. Okay, and it causes a little ulcer, if you will, in those alveoli. All right, and if it eats enough of it, that thing isn't going to go through its life cycle. it'll get to about the second instar, and it'll just put flecks on the plant leaf, but that's all the bigger it's going to get. It's not going to make the shot holes through the plant. Okay. In our guts, we have acidic environments. Okay, and in an acidic environment, the Bt protein gets broken down into amino acids. Okay, much like when you eat a steak, the protein you're eating in that steak gets broken down into amino acids and then incorporated into your body. Okay, so it's not behaving and acting the same way in a mammalian gut as it is in an insect gut. So we can never say 100%, and I won't stand up here and say 100% that there's going to be an issue with humans, but the evidence says that it's pretty minimal. We haven't been able. There's been over 1 billion animal units fed, and we haven't found it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Joe Lauer.
Yeah.